In 2024, 62% of U.S. adults invested in the stock market, according to Statista. This is a 20-year high. 87% of upper class income, 65% of middle income, and 25% of lower income Americans own stock. Today, through James 1, 9-12, I'm going to show you how we as Christians are to invest above all other means. Furthermore, we're going to learn what God tells us in light of how we are to act and think in relation to the amount or levels or value of our earthly investments, how we're to see them, how we're to use them. So let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to Reason for Truth. I'm your host, Stevie Garofalo. The Reason for Truth. Truth comes first, and we back it up with as much data, truth, biblical scriptures. Those are all called reasons. Why? Well, because they support the truth. Outside of that, listen, we want to get started, jump right in, because when we stop learning, we stop teaching. So we want to learn today so we teach others well. And so I hope you enjoy it. Talk about how we are to invest our time, our resources, our money. Not just our money. Most people think you're talking about the stock market. Well, no, not the stock market. All of your money and all of you, your time. Your time is money, as they say in business. So some people may be able to give more time than money. Well, that's fine. That's an investment. Okay. While a large percentage of people participate in the stock market per se, the wealthiest individuals own a disproportionately large share of the stocks in the stock market. According to the article by Business Insider written by Jennifer Sor, S-O-R, January 10th, 2024, the wealthiest 10% of Americans own 93% of all stocks. That's what she's writing, even with market participation at a record high. So the richest Americans own the vast majority of the U.S. stock market, according to the federal data. Now, while you may say, so many percentage, I gave a percentage earlier that, hey, 87% or whatever the number is, and what percent of the middle class or lower class, still that number that I just gave you, 97%, own, they own the vast majority of those stocks. So the richest Americans own the vast majority of the U.S. stock market, period. So the top 10% of the Americans held 93% of all stocks. Again, the highest level ever recorded. Meanwhile, the bottom 50% of Americans hold just 1% of stocks. In the third quarter of 2023, that's what's true. The wealthiest Americans have never owned so much of the stock market, with the top 10% now holding a record 93% of U.S. Equities, according to the Federal Reserve data. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this. I think that I think the government kind of perpetuated a two-class series. They want the rich and they want the poor. And, the richer, and I know a lot of people that in the stock market, they'll say, well, that's not true, Steve. Well, yeah, it is. It's, you just don't realize it. You just happen to land on one side or the other. So happen to be in a position to do so. Remember, having money makes more money. If you don't have any money, you got to get the money to make money. So, are Christians to invest? Ecclesiastes 11, 1-6 make clear that, yes, we are to invest. It's a good thing. King Solomon writes this: cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a portion to 7 or even 8, for you know not what disaster may happen on earth. Now, he's talking about diversifying, right? You don't want to put all your stuff in one eggs in one basket. But he's still talking about investments. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth. And if a tree falls in the south or the north, in the place where the tree falls, there will lie. In other words, that's a sermon. I've already covered a lot of this in itself. This is the way it is. You're not going to change that. Verse 4, he who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. That's saying if you don't invest, you're not going to reap. As you do not know the way the Spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a woman with child, so you do not know the work of God who makes everything. King Solomon's saying here that we are to invest, and that, as a wise investor, we ought really not always be, adverse to taking some risk, especially when there's genuine possibility of real gain. By the way, that's verse 1. I think we can say that investing, you want to be prudent in how you invest. I think today there's a lot of unwise investors. I was watching a real estate channel just this morning, and they pointed out, they were talking about a 24-year-old guy who had an $80 million portfolio. Doubtful he owns all that. So when the market shifts, they were saying he's going to probably most definitely end up just bankrupt with nothing at the end. You see these YouTube people, you too can be rich. And listen, these people are not going to be around, many, if any of them, because God's ways just don't work that way. And he created he created this world. So the adverse is he doesn't run it right now. He lives that to the saint in, but he is over it. The adverse is to become, right, the adverse, like a lazy sluggard. And then what happens? You take no risks. God's word says, he who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. In other words, there's a real danger in being overly cautious in light of taking no risks, right? And in light of nature's unpredictability. You don't know if that tree is going to fall to the north or the south, the west or the east. And if you don't, then you're not going to reap anything. So investing part of life, only way to get ahead is to take some risks. I took a risk leaving my family as an Italian family. That's a big deal. But I had to take that risk to get ahead. And it wasn't because I wanted to leave my family. I just didn't like the craziness of the city encroaching out and the traffic and everything. So I moved to Charlotte, and what happened? Charlotte grew up and became, traffic laden itself. But it was a risk I took. Okay, so reckless or taking excess risk can be bad, right? You see people get into the stock market. It could be good, could be bad. And listen, people who made good decisions and experienced good stock market gains could one day be bad. But taking some risk can always be good, by the way. It always is good to take some risk. And, taking risk is not only just stock market. It could be what you do with your resources. It could just be where you live, changing your job, taking a risk on a good person to marry, and that can also turn out bad, but it's a risk, right? Taking the risk to move to a new city, state, or country can be good in our older years. And in the end, taking on some risk to start a business in a retirement can be really good. It can be really bad. I have friends who later in life took risk and didn't work out well, and then, you mortgage your house. That could be very harmful to you. So listen, risk at most any time in life can be exciting and rewarding. Just take wise risks. Larry Burkett from years ago used to say you should be, this is decades ago, used to say you should be out of the stock market altogether by age 50. He is so outdated, but he's so truthful. Because when you get, now maybe you could say today 60 is yesterday's 50, but in the end, what he's saying is if you're in time of retirement, the market's finicky, man. It could always go the other way. It's not going to go one good way forever. Warning, investment of another kind is more important, but Luke says this, Luke 12, 33 to 34, it makes clear that investment of another kind is even more important, saying, sell your possessions and give to the needy. Provide yourselves with money bags that do not grow old, with a treasure in the heavens that does not fail, where no thief approaches and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Bottom line is, so some people say, I got to be poor. No, it just means be generous with what you have. Make sure you're investing in good things, because at the end, you could take that with you. God's 401k plan is different. It's what you give away. It's not what you keep. And how many people they'll die with so much money in their pockets? I don't understand that. But, the pharaohs couldn't take it with them. We found that out thousands of years later. What makes you think we're any different? God warns us, though, through Luke, what we might do with the fruits of our investments, and that you and I are to sell what we have. And it contrasts what the world tells us to be. They say keep for yourself, don't give away. Or if they give it away for bad reasons, but they give out of their excess, not out of something that costs them something. Money bags which do not grow old. What does that mean? Well, by serving God and others, you can invest in the eternal future. We cannot take possession of things and carry them into the next life. Listen, at the end of the day, let me leave you here with some idea of what we are to do with what we've been entrusted with, okay, as an investor. All of us are investors. Whether little as we have, we all have time. That's something of value, and it's something we invest in, right? In 2024, 62% of U.S. adults, again, invested in the stock market, according to Statista. Again, that's 20-year high. 87% of upper income, 65 middle class, 25% lower income. Perhaps the bottom line is that, let me put it to you a different way. Perhaps the truth is that a good portion, not all, but a good portion perhaps of the 87% of today's upper income class have been investing a bit too much in the wrong places. Perhaps a good portion of the 65% middle class have been investing in the wrong places. And what about the 25%, the lower income Americans who own stocks? They got the smallest perception. Well, perhaps they're watching the clouds. Maybe they're not doing enough. Verse 4, perhaps they don't have enough to do more with, too. And so maybe they're doing just a great job. I don't know. In any three of those, listen, God's authentic followers are found across all three classes and all three people groups. So I think the question becomes more not what class they're in, where their heart's at, what they're doing with what they have. And I mean not according to what they think, but to what God's word says, according to his biblical teachings. In any case, let's remember, everyone's an investor. It's not a matter of if, but where you invest. So let's choose wisely. Listen, I appreciate you tuning in. Garofalo is always bringing tough subjects to the table. That's what I do. I'm not going to bring you candy. You can get that at the candy store. Make sure a couple things. You want some great teaching, go to equippedacademy.com. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. By the way, that's a great way to support us. It supports our word, gets it out, and it costs you nothing, and it really helps us. So God's blessings to you. We'll see you over at the next episode. I'm your host, Stephen Garofalo. Invest wisely. This is your Reason for Truth for today.